Hello, we are in the informational text packet today. Next week, we're going to get back into some literary text. So today and tomorrow is going to close out this teeny section of informational text, and we'll go back into literary packet next week. We're looking at the essential question number 1, how do readers know what to believe? Number 4, what is informational text really about? And number 5, how does interaction with text provoke thinking and response? Today, we're looking at the following learning targets. First one we're going to address is learning target number 1, which is to cite several pieces of text evidence in the form of facts, definitions, and concrete details to support the claims made in your analysis. This one is also in the lit packet, but basically in our own words, that means to quote proof from the written work in the form of facts and details from the whatever you're reading to support the claim that you're making or the opinion that can be supported with facts in your analysis, which is your examination of the text. Make sure that you put your evidence in quotation marks because you want it to look different than your writing so that the reader who's reading your writing knows, oh, gee, this is awesome. They quoted something from someone else to give themselves support for their argument. So if you didn't write that part and you found it in the text, put quotation marks around it because that's what it tells the reader. Learning target number 2 we're going to get into today is to make claims in the form of inferences, conclusions, and or generalizations drawn from the text. This is also one we covered in literature when we were in that a few weeks ago. This basically means to make multiple claims, opinions that can be supported with evidence, using inferences, which is what the text hints at, conclusions, which is the decision reached by reasoning, and or generalizations, which are broad statements that connect to life and beyond the text, using the details in the text as the basis for your claims or your opinions. We're going to also talk a little bit about number 3, which is to determine 2 or more central ideas in the text. Remember, the central idea is that unifying element, the unifying statement that you make as the reader that holds the whole piece of text together. It's an idea that connects the whole text. Usually authors have more than one, so you need to decide on 2 or more ideas that are discussed in the text, and those ideas connect the whole piece together. Central ideas are the umbrella, the big thing that covers the whole text, whereas what we're going to talk about in a minute, claims, are the smaller subpoints that support the central idea of the text. So that is learning target number 3. And that takes us into the area of claims, which is learning target number 10. Today we're going to trace a specific argument and develop claims from that text. So to trace the argument means to follow the writer's idea throughout the text, just to follow that big central idea throughout the text and how it kind of forms and evolves and is explained by the writer. The central idea will be supported by evidence, and also it means to follow the writer's specific opinions, so the claims for their argument throughout the text. So you're going to take some time to look at different paragraphs in an essay today. Within following or tracing that argument and claims, you will find that very rarely when you read, does the writer overtly state their claims. When we write for our text-dependent analysis, we will blatantly state our claims at the beginning of our paragraphs. However, most writers that you're going to read in your informative writing and in your literary writing, they don't blatantly state their claims. So we have to infer or kind of guess by reading between the lines what we think that main or that central idea is, as well as what we think the claims are based on what is said throughout the paragraph. And you're going to see that in today's reading, that there's only one specific time that a claim is overtly stated at the beginning of a paragraph. So if you want to see what that looks like, you may want to skim and scan through the whole reading today and go down to where question, I think, 7 is, because you'll see a blatantly stated claim there. Whereas throughout the rest of the piece, you're going to have to the paragraph or section and then put a claim in your own words, because the author of this piece doesn't just state the claim right out there for you. That ties us into number 11 as well. You're going to not only look at, okay, so what is the central ideas presented in this author's writing? Okay, so what are some of the claims that they make throughout this writing to support those multiple central ideas? You're going to also look at an evaluation of the argument and specific claims in the text, which means to determine the value, worth, or importance of that central idea, of that argument presented, and of the claims that they use to support that argument. You'll evaluate it for worth, for importance. Do you think there was value within the claim and the central idea that this author presented? As you do that, you're going to also look and evaluate the evidence. We're going to look at number 14 to assess whether the evidence given in the text is sufficient to support the argument and claims in the text. We talked about sufficiency yesterday, and I want to make clear something that I saw to be confusion. Some people confuse sufficiency, which means enough, having enough evidence, having a good amount, quality, and amount, so quality of evidence and amount of evidence. Sufficiency is slightly different than relevancy. It's in fact a different learning target. To be relevant means to be based on the topic. So we're looking at sufficiency, not relevancy. So does this author have enough evidence that's strong enough, that is of high quality to support their claims and their central idea in the argument? So this, in your own words, means to make a judgment about whether the evidence, the facts and details given in the text, is enough to support the argument and specific claims. And you will have that as the final question, and embedded in multiple questions throughout the Actively Learn activity today. So those are all the learning targets that you're going to practice today. So as we look in Actively Learn, the assignment is called Finding Your Everest, and you're going to be reading through this piece. We have a background section. With each piece, you'll see some stopping points that are asking you to answer questions. You cannot answer those questions. You cannot move on to the next section until those questions are answered. And so please make sure that you are focusing in on answering each question in the section given prior to moving on to the next. Sometimes it's going to ask you to answer a question, but also do some highlighting in the section as well with some margin noting. Please make sure if it asks you to highlight a margin note, you in fact highlight and margin note. As I said, I'm correcting this not just for completeness, but also for correctness. So just doing this is not going to give you points. You really need to be thoughtful about your decision making as you assess and evaluate and determine the central ideas and the claims made within this story, Finding Your Everest. So make sure that you are getting started with that. You have today and tomorrow to work on this independent practice. I want you to really consider and think about what are the answers to these, and are you able to put them in your words to make them correct? Because you will be assessed on correctness, not just completeness. So go ahead and get working.